Hi everyone, this is Q&A with Joe McNamee, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, so Vicky, if you'd make sure that you have the questions, we'll go into the Q&A after I do this little introduction to their marketing strategy, but if you'll have those ready. And then there was something else I was going to say to you. Would you see if Courtney's got to leave now or if she can wait a few minutes until after this is done?
Yeah, she's going to wait until it's done before she leaves.
Okay, all right. You'll have to ask her to change where it says the person talking, because right now on Courtney's computer it shows it when you're talking that it's her talking. So you'll have to change that. I'm not sure how you change that, but you'll have to do that in GoToWebinar. Okay, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A. We're going to go into the question and answer section after I get done with a marketing strategy that we're going to go over. Now, one of the things I want to make clear, anybody that's offering up any kind of a business out there is in either a product business, service business. It's really hard to figure out. You might be able to really struggle and come up with something that doesn't fit product or service, but in general speaking, you're either offering up a product or a service. Even if it's free, it's a product or it's a service that you're offering up. So it's really important to understand a lot of different things about marketing. So we're just going to touch on, I'm just calling this like a little intro to that. I'm getting very deep into this in the advanced boot camp that I have coming up, the advanced training that's the 19th through the 22nd of June. If it's at all possible for you to get there, you need to get there. I'm only doing this live one time, and it's going to be in a hotel conference room. We're not going to do it at my office building. The last day when I work with individuals on their different products and services that they're interested in doing, it can be real estate or it can be completely different. It does not matter. But the last day, then I'll be working with each individual with their stuff and what products and services they already are offering, what they should offer in the future, and how to build their a really good marketing strategy, a marketing plan. So it's tailor-made for what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Okay, but we're going to get into a lot more detail in general marketing at that event. So this is just an introduction for you to start kind of thinking about. And again, this pertains to real estate or any other product or service out there that you're interested in offering up. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you got to have some sort of a strategy. You can't just all of a sudden one day decide, okay, I want to be a teacher of fly fishing, or I want to offer up a training video on how to clean shotguns, or I want to create a video on how can you ride a bicycle again after 40 years of not riding a bicycle? What should you go through? You can't just all of a sudden just come up with some, harebrained idea and then just make it like a noodle you're trying to boil and then throw it and see if it sticks to the wall. That's not a strategy. You got to come up with a plan. It's not anything that costs any money to do that, but you got to have some sort of an organized plan. So let's kind of go through this just a little bit. All right, so first of all, you're going to need do some sort of advertising. I didn't say that you had to spend money advertising, but you're going to need to come up with, do some sort of advertising. And so you got to understand what your main purpose is. So let's kind of go through a few different examples of what I mean by that. What's your main purpose of your ad, your advertising campaign, your strategy, your marketing strategy? What's the main purpose? Is it to put people on your list? Is it to get social likes? Is it to get awareness that you even exist out there of what you're offering up? Is it merely to survey a group of people to see what it is they're interested in? Let's say you want to open up a sandwich shop. There's a million different sandwich shops, and you can kind of replicate what they do, or you can go, you know what, I want to find out if there's something out there that people would love to have that's not offered. So, you know, you might want to, the main purpose might be to create surveys to find out what it is that your potential clientele, customers, are interested in, you know, having, and then you can try to back yourself into providing the service that, you know, everyone that you surveyed said they were interested in. And of course, another purpose might be just to sell something. All right. So the main purpose, you've got to figure out, there's a lot more to that main purpose, but that's just a surface explanation as to coming up with a plan. You know, for us, you know, I'm advertising for properties for sale when I'm talking about my real estate investing company. So my main purpose of my ad is to target people who would be interested in buying properties. And then on the opposite side of that, I'm always going after properties. So then I've got a different type of ad that I go after people who are interested in selling properties. And so then I get in the middle of it and facilitate what needs to happen so that I can make it work for both sides, all right, for a fair profit. Okay, so next thing is when you're trying to target people, when you're trying to get a message across to them, you got to figure out what is the benefit to your clients. All right, so number one, the primary benefit. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. So let's go back to my real estate here. So what is it that I offer up? One of the things, this is only a tiny little piece of my business, but one of the things I offer up is the terms, where it makes it easy for a person who can't get qualified for a loan, or the property can't qualify for a loan, but yet we still can make it possible for people to be able to get their American dream, which is that owning that home. So, you know, a primary benefit for my client is the terms that we offer. That's one type of client. Now I have multiple different real estate purchasing clients. That's one. Another thing is a primary benefit could be that they don't have to deal with any professionals. There's a lot of people that are not interested in dealing with realtors. They don't like dealing with realtors. So they're more into, let me deal directly with the person who can either make or break this deal between me and that person so that I can have that American dream of that home. Somebody, you know, that they feel comfortable with. That could be the benefit that's working for those type of clients. So then I would structure my ads towards that's focusing on the primary benefit that they can get from this. An ease of transition, that's another big one for us. You know, if you look at like an automobile car lot where they sell new and maybe even used vehicles, we trade houses. You know, there's times where I have the right terms, but I don't have that dream home for that buyer. And so, but they need to do something quick. So they know that when they get with me, they can acquire that home from me, and then they can trade that home in for another one of my homes that maybe fits more of what they're looking for as far as that dream home, or maybe they need to upsize or downsize or get into a different school district, or, you know, be in the country or be in the city. Maybe they lived in the country and now they're needing to be closer to doctors and hospitals, and they want to be more in a city type environment. Maybe they want to be closer to shopping and stuff like that because they can't drive like they used to, and it might not be an age thing. It could be something that changed for them that makes it much more desirable to be in that other property. So an ease of transition. Maybe it's just them, the policies and procedures that I have that makes it a perfect fit for them as a future client of mine. So I'm identifying the primary benefit. So there's that. Now there's more benefits. Okay, so aside from getting the American dream, which is an emotional state of mind, getting that American dream, now there's a side benefit. When they were always renting, they've rented their whole, I've had people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who have never bought a house in their life. So a side benefit is that they get to take advantage of a tax write-off by owning the property instead of leasing or renting the property. So they can go down that road with me. That's a secondary benefit. Another secondary benefit is if they're renting, they'll always have to pay rent forever until they die. They'll be paying rent. You know, when they're going down the road of ownership, eventually that house is going to be paid, that home is going to be paid off. So it's a secondary benefit. So there's a lot of different ways that you can structure what you're doing, your marketing message. You're targeting a specific audience, and I'm fixing to come to that now. You're targeting this audience with what you can offer them up. And remember, there's multiple different audiences that still will go after the same exact product for one reason or another. So you have to kind of figure out what it is that you're offering them, what it does for them, and then what it also does for them. And now let's talk a little bit more about this one. Who is your audience? Who's that avatar? And this is one where you've got to learn how to build your ideal customer or follower. You got to understand how to look for that. I used to make this mistake all the time. You know, it's easy for you to convince yourself, and this is what I would do to myself many years ago. Anybody who's 18 years old or older needs to be able to own their own home. They shouldn't have to rent. They should be able to own their own home. So in my way of looking at it, anybody that's 18 to 108 years old is a target for me, is my avatar, because I can convince myself that that is who I should be advertising to. Well, that means if I was going out there to choose a list of people that go on this list, and then let's just say that I was going to pay for some advertising to get in front of that group of people, that means that there would be tens of millions of people on my list that I would be trying to target, each and every one of those. Well, let's say I'm paying 2 cents per person to get my message in front of them. Well, that's a lot of money. So it's more about, when you're trying to identify this avatar, it's who's the most likely to purchase from you, to become your client. So that's where you want to start out, and you can kind of expand it from there. But you want to zero in on who that individual or that couple or that group of people is that you would be putting your information in front of. And it's a whole lot easier when you can, sort out and zero in on maybe 2,800 people as opposed to tens of millions of people. And then you can fine tune it from there even more so. But it gives you a good starting point. But don't make my mistake way many years ago. Just learn how to be very, very specific about who your potential avatar is. And it's also going to depend on the product that you're offering up. So if I'm offering up a 40-door investment property, then of course I'm not trying to offer that up to a first-time home buyer. I'm offering that up to an investor who has got a little bit of a dream team, or has the resources available or the right mentor available to be able to handle a 40-unit townhome, apartment, condo type complex. So again, zero in on what the product is and who is the avatar for that product. Okay. All right. The next thing is the what. What would you like them to do? Now, this is another mistake of mine. I used to, I wasn't very good. I'll say a good 30 years ago, I wasn't very good at stepping outside of myself and looking back in and trying to figure out what it is I want someone to do that knows zero about what my system is or what I can do for them. So what I'm trying to tell you is you got to be extremely clear. You got to don't assume that they understand or know anything about you or what you're offering up. You've got to be very clear on exactly what you want them to do, step by step. Get their attention in a very, in a few seconds, then keep their attention for a few more seconds, and then from there, then get, precisely into what it is that you want them to do. Again, don't assume anything. Be very clear, be exact, okay? All right. And then the most important thing, the last part of this, is what is the blank of your company? What is the personality like? Do you want it to be this upbeat, friendly, let's say that you own a massage therapy business and you have 7 massage therapists on your staff, and you have aromatherapy, and you've got, therapeutical masseuse, and you've got physical therapists, and you've got chiropractors, you've got all different kinds of things that you can offer up. All right. That would be a very spiritual, uplifting, but calm and mellow type of image or way about your business. So this is what your business is. This is what you want. This is the blank of your company. How do I want my company to be perceived? You could be a collection agency. So let's say that your company is all about collections. The last thing in the world you want to be is very easygoing and have a very simple temperament to where you're joking all the time and stuff like that. In my opinion, that would be the last thing. Now, who knows? That might be the best thing in the world to do with it. But in my way of looking at it, you wouldn't. That would be this is the bottom line. There's no every T is crossed, every I is dotted. There's no joking around. Here's what we expect, and I want to know back from you right away by such and such what your intentions are. That kind of person there. So you got to figure out what personality, what's the character of your business, not the individuals, but the business, so that then the individuals can learn how to develop the right temperament to be part of that. So there's some charm that could go into this. You just want to figure out how you want this to be. Are you a very nurturing, caring, helpful type business that's willing to help everyone? And the other thing is, the danger with that kind of a setup is that people will try to take advantage of you. It happens constantly. So then you have to have that sternness about, here's the line in the sand, or it's a deep ditch that's dug in the sand. You stay on your side and we'll stay on our side, but we'll be nice. So you have to figure out what temperament, how is your company perceived when they deal with you? That's probably the most important, but the toughest thing for people to figure out right in the beginning, because the first thing you do is either I'm just going to be a numbers person and I want to make this much money, and I've got these expenses, I got to make sure they're paid, and so I need to be paid so that I can make sure that my debts are paid. And so you can be that type, or you can be the person that's just so easygoing and helpful, and either way you're going to drive people away from you. You're going to have customers, but you can also drive people away. So you have to just kind of figure out, how are you going to blend all this together and build that? And then once you come up with what that is, then it's time to make a mission statement about your business. And you can even go as far as to make an SOP, a standing operating procedure. It's not standard, it's standing operating procedure. So that's the procedures that are currently in effect right this minute. That's what you can write from that once you've decided on what is the blank of your company. Okay, so that's pretty much for that part of it. So let's go ahead and see if there's any questions out there. So Vicki, if you could look to see if anyone has a question. Victoria, are you there?
If you have any questions, you can raise your hands now, or you can type in your question.
Do you have any questions that are already been emailed to you that we can go over
Okay,
those?
yeah, we do have some questions. The first question is, after establishing a decent-sized buyers list, and I'm all ready to put new messages out for the sellers, what is the best approach of keeping buyers and sellers separate from knowing confidential information?
Okay, well, you don't want to share any kind of confidential information with anyone. You don't want to share it with other buyers if it's buyers' confidential information, or if it's sellers' confidential. You don't want to share that with anyone. Anything that you're doing between you and a client, a customer, is between you and that client customer. It's not for anyone else to be part of when you're just doing a regular real estate investing business. You'll see me share information, and that's because I get written permission to do so first. And then in addition to that, I wear a couple of different hats. So I teach people by showing them how to do the business because I physically do it myself. It's a very unique thing out there. There's not a lot of people out there that do that. But the next thing is, there's absolutely no reason why buyers need to know anything about your information between you and sellers. So your agreement between you and the seller is between you and the seller. It's none of their business, and vice versa, same thing. So you always want to make everyone aware of that those are the ditches, those are the lines that they don't cross over. This is your personal information that you're not going to share with them, and this is your personal information with that person that you're going to, your personal business information that you're going to keep separate. There's not like a single answer to that, but anyone that's asking that kind of stuff, I would just be looking at, the first thing I'm going to let them know is that's the personal business between me and my client, my customers, and so there's no reason for me to share that with you. And if they keep pushing that, then you need to remove them from your customer base, because it's not somebody that you want to work with, because they're trying to figure out somehow they can get rid of you anyway, in most cases when that starts down that road. Okay, next question.
Okay. If I locate a for sale by owner and they put a info box in the yard and all the steps, and I've done all the steps with the seller, will I ask the seller to take the box down after I have the 90-day option to purchase in place? And let's say that the seller still lives there.
Well, okay, so let's just address one at a time there. All right, so the first thing is, no matter whether it's the seller trying to sell it, or it's a realtor, or it's the next door neighbor, no matter who it is that was trying to sell it, it didn't sell. That's why they're looking to deal with you now. So all of their stuff needs to be removed. So if you try to mix your marketing message with a realtor or the individual, the for sale by owner person or whatever, it's going to get confusing. It's going to cause some problems, and people who aren't well trained are going to make mistakes. So the bottom line is, you don't want anyone else advertising this. Now, there's a part that makes it kind of difficult, and that's when they put it online for sale. There's a few places, like maybe it's Zillow or a few different places, I forget where it is now, but some places, even though it's been deleted, it's still sitting out there where people can find, where maybe a for sale by owner person or a realtor listed a house for sale, and they had the price out there and all, and now they're no longer trying to sell it, and people can dig up that old ad, so that you will run into that kind of a problem. But as far as physically at the address, there is nothing there from anyone except you dealing with this property now. All right, so that's number one. Number two, if the seller lives there, there's a good possibility that the person who's interested in the house might just go knock on the door. And so anytime that I'm dealing with the seller, I just let them know I'm trying to do the best I can for you. And so if we get some sort of mixed messages going on, it can cause my buyers to run away or to screw up a deal to where I won't be able to get you as much as I might have been able to get you while I'm trying to buy this property. So I may not be able to give you as much for it because you had a conversation with the buyer about different things that you shouldn't have. So anytime anyone shows up at the property, my signs are right there in the yard, my information's right there on the counter. Just give that person who's interested in the property that information, tell them to call you, and that's it. Don't have any kind of conversations with them. Now, as far as if you're going to show the property and you're out there actually having other people look at this property with the seller there, it's okay for you to ask, like, hey, do you know where the septic tank is? Or do you know where what kind of cable it is that brings television to this house? It's things like that, but nothing in detail about price or how they can get it from you or what your deal is with them or any of that kind of stuff. So that's the way that I handle that there. All right, next question.
Okay, in layman's terms, what does carryback second mean, and how do I apply a wrap?
Okay, so a carryback second is referring to a second mortgage that we put on the house. So I'm just going to make an assumption that question's coming from there might be a first mortgage on the property. Let's say that let's say I'm taking over a house subject to that has a note on it that Bank of America has loaned on this property. Let's say they loaned $120,000 and they're still owed $100,000 on this note, and the note has 25 years left on it. I'm just making up numbers. All right, so that's a first mortgage on this property, and I just took it over, so I'm responsible for that first mortgage. Let's say that the monthly payments are $800 a month. Okay, so now I market the house, I put it up for sale, and I find a buyer who's willing to buy it from me for $150,000, and they've given me $10,000 down. So they still owe me $140,000 because they gave me $10,000. And I still owe $100,000 for the first mortgage to Bank of America that's still out there. All right, so the difference between the $100,000 that I owe to Bank of America and the $140,000 that's owed to me from that buyer is $40,000. So if I was going to put the deed in their name right now because they gave me $10,000 down, then I would do a seller carryback second. Now I'm the seller because I bought it subject to. So then I would create a second mortgage for $40,000. So, and let's say that I decide I want the monthly payments to be $250 a month. So there's a first mortgage to Bank of America for $800 a month at $100,000 still owed. And there's a second mortgage for $40,000 at $250 per month coming to me. So that means a grand total of $1,250 a month is coming to me. I'm sorry, 8 and 250 is $1,050 per month coming to me, plus whatever the taxes and insurance are. So now, for me to create a second mortgage, I am not foolish like a lot of small lenders are and have been for decades out there. I know that they can pay me in second position and not pay the first, but that means I don't have the right to foreclose, but the first lender does, so Bank of America does. So the way for me to protect myself against that is I do it on a wrap. All right, and I'm going to explain how you do that in just a minute. But I do it on a wrap. It's a wraparound mortgage. That means that everything that I'm doing with this, they owe me the $140,000, and the total monthly payments to pay me is $1,050 plus the taxes and insurance. So let's just say it's the monthly payment's $1,400 a month. So $1,400 a month is coming into me, and then I'm taking the money out to pay the taxes, money out to pay the insurance, and money out to pay the first mortgage. All right, the rest of it is mine. The $250 that's left over is mine towards my second mortgage that I put in place. Now, when I do it on a wrap, that means that they can't pay just the first or just the second. They have to pay the full $1,400 or they're in default. So if it was a first mortgage and a second mortgage by themselves and there's no wrap, then they can pay either one of them and one's not in default. But if they don't pay the other is in default and can foreclose. So we want to make sure that right away, if they're not paying me that full $1,400, that means that I know immediately that no one's being paid on this, and now I can do whatever it is that I need to do to protect my interest. Okay? Now, to actually go through the process of putting the second mortgage in place and putting the wrap in place, that's what your investor-friendly attorney does for you. I don't want you trying to do that stuff for yourself. There's a lot of things that is okay to do yourself, but to do things like that, you don't want to go to a closing yourself. You don't want to put notes in place yourself. You don't want to do wraps yourself. You want to do that through your attorney, and it's cheap. It's very cheap for them to do it. And they have all the experience, knowledge in your area of how to do it and how to protect the whole thing so that there's not this big lawsuit. And if there is some sort of complaint or something, then everything gets referred to the attorney who did the closing anyway. So, all right, next question.
Okay. On the lease to right to sublease, am I leasing this in the 30-year mortgage idea using a year-to-year lease until the down payment is satisfied and the lease purchaser cashes out to me or the seller?
Okay, so when you're leasing a property, if you're leasing it with the right to sublease, that's between you and a seller generally, okay? So that lease with the right to sublease is you taking over the property for the amount of time. You may have done it for 1 year, for 5 years, renewable every 30 years, but whatever you did that, whatever time frame you did that, it's not based on a 30-year anything. All right, so you're just leasing it from that person with the right to sublease it. And if you're doing this to handle it to eventually sell this property to someone else, then you're going to do it with the purchase price locked in place in that lease purchase agreement. So the right to sublease means that the individual seller is signing in writing saying that they understand that you are leasing this, but you are not moving into it. You're going to be subleasing it to someone else. If you just lease it and you don't say that that's what you're doing, then in writing, it looks like you're the one that's moving into the property, you're living there. And of course, if you're doing this as a real estate investor, in most properties that you get, you're not planning on moving into. Now, every now and then, someone finds that special property that they want to move into for themselves, and that's fine. But you're doing this with the right to sublease it so that you can put in someone that you can work with down the road who can buy it from you, or you stay in the deal somehow. It just depended on the way the situation works out. All right. Next question.
Okay. When I see that I cannot stay in a deal and I have to do an assignment of contract, how do I retrieve my assignment fee in the process of this type of negotiations?
Okay, so that's the funny one that happens out there with a lot of people that learn from information marketers teaching real estate investing. The information marketers always get this one wrong. It drives me nuts. It's crazy. So they put an option to purchase in place, and then they think, because they don't really do this, they think that, okay, I found a buyer who's willing to buy it, and even buy it like subject to. They can handle what the monthly payments are on it, but they can't handle anything above that. So there's no reason for the investor to stay in the deal. So then the information marketer who hears me say certain things and then tries to build training programs around that makes this one mistake. And they make the same mistake. They've been doing it for 10 years that I know of, and I watch them over and over again. Lots of them make this mistake. So they assume that the only way that you can get the assignment fee is at closing. So they think that this person who is the end buyer, who's going to be buying it subject to from the seller, and you're just getting out of the way, that the only way that you can be paid is at the closing table. And nothing could be further from the truth. So the bottom line is this. Let's talk about it. You took over this property for $10. You put an option to purchase in place. It costs $1,000 a month for this place, and you can't find anybody who's willing to pay more than $700 or $800. And you finally found one person who can handle it at $1,000. There's no reason for you to stay in the deal, and they only got $3,500 down. So you You go back to the seller and you say, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I can't find anyone that makes it possible for me to buy this property and stay in this deal. It's just the market has spoken to me loud and clear, and your monthly payments are just way too high for me to, stay in this deal. However, I have a buyer for you who's willing to take over this at this price, okay, at this monthly payment. So then what you do is you create your assignment of contract. So you were buying it. Your contract was, if you could find a satisfactory end buyer, you were going to buy it for what they owed on it at the $1,000 a month payment. So you're going to assign this contract, your position as the buyer, to this new person. Let's just say it's Bob Frank. That's his name, Bob Frankie. All right. So Bob can pay the $1,000 a month, and Bob has $3,500 to pay down, and then he's taking it over for what's owed on the property. So Bob is buying it for what the cost of the property is plus the $3,500. What the price is that you are buying it for plus the $3,500. So Bob gives you the $3,500 right then and there, all right, and the assignment of contract. Now changes you from being the buyer on the agreement between you and the seller to Bob being the buyer on the agreement with the seller. All right, so now there's two different ways of doing that. One, it can just be the assignment of contract sitting there with the original contract, or it can be a new contract drawn up between Bob and the seller. Either way, you've been paid the $3,500 right then and there, not a month or two from now when you go to closing. So, the information marketers, they'll tell you, oh, well, you don't even have to show up to closing, and FedEx will deliver the check to you from closing and all. Well, a million things can go on between now and the day of closing, and the day that check is written, and the day that check is written and the check is good. So you've already collected the money up front before you've allowed Bob to deal directly with the seller at all. Bob has already paid you for you to get out of his way so that he can then buy it directly from the seller. Okay, next question.
Well, actually, there was a second part to that. It was also at the buyer, and the buyer's is the one paying this before talking to the seller. So is the buyer the one paying the assignment fee before talking to the seller?
Oh, yeah. Well, in 99% of the time, yes. Sometimes the seller pays me to sell the property to another end buyer, but most times it's the end buyer that's paying me. So yes, in 99% of the time, it's the buyer who's paying me first before I'm letting the buyer deal directly with the seller. I'm going to go and talk to the seller about it, but I'm not going to let my buyer go deal with the seller. My buyer is staying between me. I'm staying between my buyer and the seller until the buyer has paid me to get out of the way. Okay?
All right, next question. When buying and selling in a retirement neighborhood, is it best to use lease with a right to sublease?
Oh, that's going to be an individual case. It's a case-by-case basis. There's a lot of different things that can play out there that makes me go one way or another. It's going to have a lot to do with the seller. It's going to have a lot to do with the end buyer. It's going to have a lot to do with the way that I'm structuring my business and building my marketing list. So there's a lot of different things that's going on there. So each deal is a deal by itself, and I always tell people each deal is also if you handle it even a little bit deeper than that, as a business by itself. So if you have joint venture partners and all that kind of stuff, it's just for that one deal. They're not a joint venture partner with everything. They're just on that one deal. So and between you and the seller, and between you and the end buyer, that every single one of those is a little different. That's where the mentoring comes in really, really helpful, and it helps you make a lot of money. I'm not telling you to sign up for mentoring right this minute, whoever's asking questions and stuff, but the bottom line is there's so many different scenarios that can happen and get thrown at you, and so many different situations that it's not based on a neighborhood. All right, next question.
Okay, it's probably going to be kind of the same thing, but how does real estate investing work with new development subdivisions?
I mean, it's the same thing. They have a property that they no longer want. Depends on how you can take it over. Depends on what they have to have. Depends on what that problem is you're solving. and then you're finding buyers who can pay the same, if not a little bit more, plus your assignment fees to make it profitable for you to spend $10 to, like that example I use is a very, very low dollar example, but you spent $10 to make $3,500. Would you do that all day long if you could just spend 10 to make 3,500? How about you, Vicki? Would you?
Yeah, definitely.
How many times a day would you do that?
All day long.
All day long. That's right. Okay, next question.
Okay, when a buyer is paying money, when this buyer is paying me money, do I need to operate out of one bank account for all lease purchase properties, or does each house that I'm dealing with need its own account number?
No, I wouldn't go quite that far. There's different ways that you can set up different accounts, but it wouldn't be for every single house deal. Now, if you're going to group, bunch properties together, then you can figure out a dollar figure that you and your attorney think is a good dollar figure for your area. And so it might be 3 houses or it might be 17 houses that get to that dollar figure, and then group them together in an LLC by itself. And so then each LLC would have its own account. But as far as like starting out as a sole proprietor, you don't need to create a whole bunch of bank accounts. Okay, next question.
Okay, if a seller is asking $150,000 for a house and the seller wants half of the down payment, so $75,000, what is the rule of thumb in raising the
Wait a minute. They're asking $150,000 for the house, so that's not a down. That's $75,000.
But the seller wants half for the down payment. They want $75,000.
No, $75,000 is half of the purchase price, not the down payment. I think they worded it wrong or something.
Okay, what is the rule of thumb in raising the $150,000 to make money off the house? Is there a scale of reference to use?
Okay, that's really poorly written, that question. If a person is selling a house for $150,000, all right, and the seller wants half of the down payment, I don't think they're talking about half of the purchase price. I think if they're asking that, they're asking for maybe the down payment's $15,000 expected or $20,000 expected. So the seller wants half of that $15,000 or $20,000. They don't want half. They're not in that question. Wouldn't make sense to say half of the purchase price. So half of the down payment or half of the purchase price. That's what we have to understand about that question. So I'm not going to be able to answer that until I really know the answer to what I'm asking. That's why it's better for you to be able to call in your questions instead of emailing or texting them in or what have you. All right, next question.
Okay, does anyone else have any more questions? If you do, raise your hand or you can type them in.
Okay, so everyone, while we're waiting here for those 1 or 2 that all of a sudden decide to be brave enough to ask a question, in your marketing plan of your strategy, you can take what I just talked to you about and start building that. You could even go into, let's use Facebook. And Facebook is not the only place, but you could go into Facebook, and I'm going to go to this one slide here to see. All right, so right here, who is your audience? Who's that avatar? So you could go into Facebook, and you could start trying to build who you think, is it mostly males? Is it mostly females? Are they ages 30 to 60? Are they in an income bracket that's 35 to 70,000? Are they 150,000 to 500,000? You can start building that, and then you can start, each time you build that, it'll start showing you the size of the audience that's in Facebook. All right, so it's just going to show you what's in Facebook if you're using Facebook. But you can go into that Facebook ad manager, you can go through there and start trying to build it and get an idea so that you can zero in on the a really low number if you're selling a high dollar ticket item. So homes are high dollar ticket items. Now, if you're selling sunglasses, then 500,000 or 1,000,000 names is probably a good number. Somewhere in between 500,000 to 1,000,000 would be a good number for you to go to. But when you're selling houses, that's a whole different ballgame there. And you're trying to figure out where they want to live, all that kind of stuff. So plugging everything in as best you can to Facebook Ad Manager will kind of get you in the right direction, kind of get you going to start understanding what the demographics are of that whole process. Okay, all right. So Victoria, are there any other questions?
There's no other questions.
Okay, so I will do my going once, going twice. Do everything that you can do to get to my advanced real estate and business enhancement bootcamp the 19th through the 22nd of June. Right outside of Savannah. It's actually considered on the north side of Savannah. It's going to be down the street from my office complex in a hotel conference room. You can call the office and talk to us a little bit more about that if you'd like to. You can go to joemcnamee-training.com and click on the product store, and you can see a whole lot more information there about it. But this is where I take people from making, say $20,000 a year, so anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 a year, into being able to make a lot more than that. And sometimes you're making a lot more than that from the same exact effort that you already did just to make the between 20 and 100,000. So get to that boot camp. It's the only time I'm going to be doing that live event. I'm not an information marketer that likes to do live events all the time and tie up all my time doing that. So I hope that everybody enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again. We'll talk to you soon.